part of degree final year, fifth semester, elective paper, People's Movements in Modern India. The paper is People's Movement in Modern India. It's an English medium. The modern India, why the peoples are fought, the revolutions, movements, agitations was taken place by the all over in India, the peasants, laborers, tribals, agriculture laborers, the different sections of the people, they fought for their rights. So in 16th century and 17th century, you know that already in modern India, Europeans were, they are affected their policies in Indian territory. Different regions, different effects done by the Europeans. Like you know that the East India Company in 1600 AD establishment in London-based company, the traders. The Queen Elizabeth, she gave permission to do the business with relations and trade relation with the East India regions. The part of that, the company traders were entered to the, expanded their business and trade to the eastern part of the world, like India and Sri Lanka and many Indonesia, many countries. So in 17th century, these trade relations were, some policies were affected by the native Indians. So that policies are affected the economical life of the people and the traditional life of the people affected by Europeans. Mostly in 17th century, East India Company policies were largely impacted on Indian farmers and laborers. Firstly, the mercantilism and free trade policy, laissez-faire, these were introduced by the British. One by one, all sections of the people, they were affected by the British policies, especially economic and financial policies. As the traders, the Europeans, in the most in Indian region. So mostly in our fifth semester, the 5 chapters were there. First part, British colonialism and their policies, impact on the colonial policies on Indians. Means the second is the civil and people's revolts. So first, what are the causes for the movements, agitations? First topic, that is first chapter. Second is civil and people's revolts. Third is peasants revolts, peasant movements, farmers movements, agitations. Then fourth is leftist and labor revolutions. Communist Party and other political organizations are actively mobilize the Indian laborers and farmers. Lastly, the fifth chapter is Dalits and downtrodden people and women movements, Dalit movements and women movements. These are the 5 chapters were there in your according to your fifth semester elective paper, People's Movement in Modern India. First, the British migrated after British, after entering into the British East India Company policies. After 1600 AD, the slowly that policies of the British affected the Indian peasantry. You know already, basically India is a agriculture based country. Most of the people are dependent on agriculture, cultivation of crops. The major occupations of the people of India: farmers, farming, and cultivation of different type of crops. So this when the Britishers entering into India, they are slowly first they are consumed they are selling their goods in Indian region, manufacturing goods, already completed goods sell to Indians. Foreign trade, and that how they are capturing. First, they took permission from Mughal emperor like Jahangir and Mughal rulers. They gave permission to the Britishers. After they came, they have to expanding their revenue policies, and also more their policies are one by one. Like firstly, they targeted to occupy the Bengal region, after the Mysore, after Maratha, and many princely states regions. The Britishers were impacted. Their indirect or direct their policies are impacted the Indian people. So, like this, first mercantile policy, mercantilism they introduced, means trade under the control of British. The local people trade affected. The who are our Indian countryside people, countryside, the rural villages occupations are affected. Then, like that, mercantile policies, like one of the great author, Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations. He wrote one book in Wealth of Nations. Means the different nations, what are the, what is the wealth, main wealth of the countries, he mentioned in that. General policies and analyzation, mercantilism, trade policies. So first book which was mentioned about the trade policies, wealth of nations by Adam Smith. That book is more helpful to the British and East India Company peoples. Then the Principles of Political Economy, which was written by J.S. Mill in 1760. That book also, Principles of Political Economy, many they analyzed the British economy policies. They written the books. So it is giving the lot of information about the policies of British, economical policies of British. Okay, so some of the policies are affected: forest policy and agriculture policy, trade policy, and trade and business policies of British, which were largely affected on people. So then, in European countries, firstly they targeted to, or basically region means the East India Company. That is, firstly the Surat, Cochin, Calicut, Pondicherry. So that places Goa, Dayu Daman, that regions are which is seaports. They are occupied, means the centers, trade centers were established by British. Then these all policies are designed by the Tudor dynasty, which is a British uh, dictatorship type of government. Okay, so the British East India Company, you know that Indian already ruling by the different princely states, like many, the Baroda, Hyderabad, Awadh, and many regions, different local princely states are ruling to India. But one by one, firstly, the like a plus, many first political power they want to gain on Indian region. Then after an Indian, they involved the native princely states, internal matters. Britishers wanted British involved to the native rulers' policies. Like, firstly, the Bengal, the Nawab of Bengal, Sirajuddaulah, the mainly two wars were getting into the power. One is to British Plassey, Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar. These two wars are these two battles of help to the to get more power, expansion of British autonomy on Indian territory. After getting into power, the Bengal was annexed, Bengal occupied, and after that, Mysore and many princely states are taken to their control. Slowly, first their expansion to their trade. The India is they consider as a huge market. It is exchanging of goods, means made the British made goods were selling to the Indians. Then to gathering of collecting of raw materials from India. So Indian farmers and agriculture laborers were they treated as a machines, nothing but the goods which were supplier, means raw material supplying to the British. They concentrate first the three categories. The Britishers are they concentrated to the Indians. Firstly, they treated as India is a good profitable market for them. Secondary, manufacturing to collecting the raw materials. Then thirdly, they are introduced, they are established their companies and industries in Indian region. Like that, they are affected the mostly first merchants and artisans, village artisans affected, and also after their commercialization of agriculture. They targeted to commercialization of agriculture because whatever the requirement, which crop, the cash crops are introduced and replaced by food crops. The food crops are completely collapsed by the British traders. The British policies are affected to the Indian traditional crops are affected and they're replaced by cash crops and trade related, which is required for their industry and for the manufacturing of goods. So that purpose, the British government is slowly expansion of their economy and to getting more. The one is to getting more huge profits from India, and secondly, the expansion of the political power. They took the East India Company was took permission from the Britain government, and they take support their British Army support and to gain for to occupy the British regions. So like that, slowly the British policies, political policies are gaining in the power. Then economical policies are impacted on Indian peasantry and laborers, artisans, occupation people. These all people are affected by the British policies. So firstly, the East Company rule till the 1857 means firstly from the 1600 AD to 1750s means till the Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar means one category only for trade, the selling of their products, the first category. After 1757, they are established their expansion of their trade centers in Indian territory. The trade centers are Surat and many parts of the country like Kerala, Bengal, Madras, and western part of India, which is a coastal region also help to the for the trade centers. So The British East India Company policies are cause for to raise the agitations and revolutions by Indians. Okay. The next that commercialization of agriculture and commercialization of agriculture like previously Indian traditional crops are jowar, bajra, and some barley and this grams, seeds. These are some food crops they are cultivated by Indian farmers. So after the Britishers entering, then 17th century, second half, their introduction of trade centers like cotton, jute, and sugarcane, and coffee, tea. So these crops and are introduced by the tobacco. These all crops are introduced by the British. So people, the peasants and farmers were, they don't want to continue their cultivation of the trade crops like cash crops. But British wantedly, they are not given any support to the food crops cultivated farmers. So the advance to give the money and monetary benefits, investments, these fully help to the which farmers are cultivating the trade cash crops. For them only financial assistance given by the British government. So slowly the scarcity is also during the period of British government, many famines also taken place. Famines, droughts also because of their revenue policies. And as well as the British introduced some revenue settlements. The free trade policy, after invention of the free trade policy, in the part of this free trade policy, there were revenue settlements like Raitwari, Mahalwari, and permanent settlements. Three type of revenue settlements were introduced by the British government. So the Mahalwari system and Raitwari system and Thomas Munro and also permanent settlement system, which is a permanent settlement system introduced by Karen Wallis in 1793. So these revenue policies are fixed the tax, tenure policies, land tenure policy, fixed the land revenue, and for 10 years, whether the crop production is going to the loss, also the farmer can pay the tax. Means there is no way to escape from the paying of taxes. The farmer is so burdened, he feels as so burdened. The British government is not supported to the Indian farmers, as well as they have to collect in the more taxes, revenue taxes on allotting on the British and the Indian farmers. So the like Bengal and Madras and Punjab, where the peasants farming society was there, that peasants were, they decided to fight against the British this revenue policies also. So it is one of the reason. So these we are discussing the causes for the causes, which causes are influenced to starting the agitations, people's movements, why the peoples are doing the movements against the different policies. So the part of that, firstly, trade policies and industrial policies. Laborers also affected. Laborers means it is that laborers mostly they're getting very less wages on the and more working hours. The starting the 16th and 17th century, 14 hours working in the industries by the laborers. Every day, the 14 hours per day, they have to work in the East India Company factories like iron, coal, these factories also more work for the laborers. So like that laborers and farmers are due to the land revenue policies and laborers are like less wages, and one of the tribal peoples, the tribes of Indian all regions, the tribes were why they are how the tribal people of India they decided to fight against the British policies. Firstly, forest policy which was introduced by the British government. The tribes where they are living, where they are cultivation, forest is traditionally total the tribal people were captured, tribal people only enjoying their every that leaves and fruits and what are the cultivation, podu cultivation and zoom cultivation. So agriculture in the forest land used by the tribal peoples naturally. But it's a bonding, it is a very close bonding to the forest and tribal people. But the tribes were mostly disturbed because of British policy, because forests were captured by British government. They introduced the forest department. The forest department is categorize the forest as some of the reserve forests, some of some categorization take into the total forests are where the tribal people are living. Forest is captured and to fencing to thrown out the tribal people from the forests. So like there are too many like Chhattisgarh and Bihar and Orissa and Madhya Pradesh. So different Maharashtra, like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, these all South India and North India, even the eastern part of India also, like Assam and Meghalaya also, the tribal peoples were disturbed because of British tribal policies. So the British forest, so forest policy fencing to under the control of forest officers also recruited, appointing. So even one what are the minimum needs of the people also. Wood is not cut from the forests. Even the single tree also not cut by the any Indians without permission from the British government. Strict rules and regulations were introduced by the British government. So British policies like Jharkhand, like Bihar state, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, many parts of the country, Uttar Pradesh, they are fight against West Bengal also. Tribal people are there to cancel this forest policy, to abolish the abolition of these all forest acts which were done by the British Parliament. They fight against the British government by the tribals. Okay, so because of their traditional, the culture is spoiling, the culture is disturbing because of British policies. So that the government of British uh, to cancel this, they fight tribes. So free trade policy, mercantilism also reason, and European trade policies also introduced. So mostly European trading centers in India, I told already, so that Dayu, Daman, Surat, Broch, Ahmedabad, and also Goa, and Cochin, Mahi. So this Calicut, Pulicat, this is Chennai, Pondicherry, Tranquebar. These all are trade centers which were maintained by the British. So British East India Company, so they are collapsing the Indian economy. They're slowly, gradually destroying the Indian economy by British. So that's why the Indians, peoples, the traders or merchants, native tribes also means as well as merchants and farmers and laborers, they start with against the who are opponents the British policies. Okay, So India, the company rule from the 1757 to 1858, East India Company policies are introduced. Then after the 1857, Sipai revolt, Sipai mutiny, 1857. You know that already you studied 1757, 1857 revolt. Why it was done? So it is like some Sipais and princely states uh, rulers, many like a Jhansi and Baroda, some Satara, Medinipur. So doctrine of lapsi policy, which was introduced by Dalhousie, and many the policies are introduced. So the company rule from the 1757 to and 1858, 1857 later, 1858 to 1947, direct rule. British Viceroy post was created by British and direct administration done by the British government. So, like that, company rule and British direct administration. So, these two were effectively directly impacted on Indian uh, Indian peasantry and laborers. Like the destroyed by the Indian industries, also one of the cause for raising the revolution in India. Destroying of Indian industries, gradually collapsing the Indian industries means they, if the British government they have to give easily permission to the Europeans, England people to establishment of company or trade. But those who are native Indians, they did not get easily. The permissions are they did not get easily by the British government. So wantedly cooperating the industrial cooperation done by the British to the for them only. Britain is supported to Britain industrialists only, not for Indians. So important questions. It will some time is there after complete the syllabus. I will give the important questions. Okay. So in this first chapter, I am explaining about the causes for revolutions, causes for the people's movement, why the revolutions were done in India, uh, like a farmers' movements, peasants' movements, laborers' movements, why it was taken place, reasons I told. That important questions I will give the last, Mr. SK. Okay. I will give the 5 chapters were there, more 5 classes are there. After complete all syllabus explanation and last day, I will give some questions. In this, reasons and causes for the people's movements. Okay, reasons and causes which are influenced to the for the agitation, like people's agricultural laborers and Indian merchants, why they get angry on British. So due to the British policies, they decided to fight each against government. Then village occupations also slowly, gradually collapsed. Village occupations. Vruttulu, Gramina Vruttulu means village artisans like a pottery, carpentry, and many village traditional occupations were there. So because the British were introduced their British goods introduced in India for cheaper rates. So Indian like a and also weaving, also handlooms, weaving cloth, textile industry, handlooms, Cheti Vruttulu, Cheneta Parishrama, what were there. So these industries were traditionally these industries were there in India, but after entering the British in India, these traditional occupations were disturbed because For cheaper rates, England introduced their England products in India. Indian clothes and British clothes. The quality is same, but price is, if you compare to for India, British cost, that price should be very high Indian prices, because the handloom worker, he weaving the cloth, he making the thread, cotton textile industries. He has to lot of work done by this handloom worker. But in Britain, these all works were made on machine. Power looms were there. So machine technology were not there in India. By hand only making the all these goods. So that's why they are collecting the reasonable price from Indians. So till the entering of British, no problem to the Indian occupations. After entering, the British goods, foreign goods were sold to India for cheaper price. So that was affected to the Indian merchants. Mostly, yes. Okay. So these mostly the Indian market and Indian trade industrial indices are collapsed, and British wantedly they are encouraged to their goods in India. So when the British goods or foreign goods are came to India, the Indian market goods are very less importance. So that is one of the village artisans also affected by affected people. They get huge loss for them. Okay. Then in Britain, at the same time, in 15th and 16th century, industrial revolution were taking place in England. In that industrial revolution, more machineries were introduced. But in India, no technology, only handmade goods at that time, 15th and 16th century, making by hand, all this pottery, carpentry, and clothes, textile, everything was made by the by hand, by hand only. But due to the industrial revolution in England, their melting of iron, steel introduced, wooden replaced by the wooden material by steel and iron materials. You know that the iron and steel materials were not there in India till the Britishers or that the technology were input to in India. So when the this melting of iron and James Watt, some steam engine, Richard Arkwright, bulb invention, and many electric or machines introduced, then making of goods process is very fast in England. So it's take a very less price. Cost of production also will be very less if we compare to India. By making the goods were making by hand, it will take some time, lagging, more time, and also more money also, efforts also required for the making of goods. But in the mostly making of goods by machines, it's very easy process. Of course, some power and machines work, which is very fast. They can prepare the goods, so very less efforts. So that the price of product is very less if compared to hand making. So that's why Indians are traditionally without technology, they made goods. It will take more money, waste, and more quality is very less they compared. So Indian goods and foreign goods, they compared the people. So Britain goods, same quality is there, cheaper rates were there. So that's why the most of the people are attracted to the foreign goods. Of course, nowadays also many dominated the foreign products and foreign goods and services dominated to the Indian market. Even now it's a global market is very globalized. Means it's a worldwide. The goods and services are easily spreading to most of the region to region. So at that time, many the laborers and farmers are affected. So like this, village artisans were affected. These also is like a skin industry, iron industry, making of clothes, and also um, leather works also affected by the British government. So in 1800 year, in the world, very fast growth were taken place in 15 to 20% of the people, the employment in only the weaving industry, cloth, textile and leather works and iron, making of some cloths, different woolen cloths like that. So these were affected by the British industry. That only మనం ఆర్టిషన్స్ హస్తకళలు చేతి వృత్తులు కూడా ఎఫెక్ట్ కావడం అనేది జరిగింది. Cotton industry, these all. So these all reasons. Then thirdly, agriculture policies. Agriculture policies. What are the policies are affected for the this people's movement? ప్రజా ఉద్యమాలు, రెవల్యూషన్స్, తిరుగుబాట్లు ఎందుకు జరిగాయి అనే దానికి మనం రీజన్స్ ని చెప్పుకుంటున్నాము. సో దిస్ ఆల్ వన్ బై వన్ సెక్టార్ ఈజ్ ఎఫెక్టెడ్ బై means the British government policy is only affected. Mostly the next third part 3, agriculture policies and revenue policies. Agriculture policies and revenue policies. So agriculture means it's a major occupation in India. From the beginning onwards, the India is a agriculture country. India is a agriculture country, agriculture based country. 1/3 of the people, 1/3 of the people, they are dependent on cultivation. They depended on agriculture and cultivation. So that this mostly agriculture was the farming society, means some huge labor is working under the agriculture, farmers, agriculture laborers. So this agriculture till the 17th century, it's very prosperous in India. Prosperous means it's very well developed sector in India. So agriculture was well developed before the entering of British East India Company to India. So the East India Company, after entering that, they introduced the agriculture is a trade and like a trade and commerce policy, like investments. So one industry, one company, was owner will be there. He has to put some investments. Like a industry, he put some investment and he expect the more huge profit. Like that, Britain also, they treated as a industry. So before, the agriculture is a way of life for Indians. They're producing the crops, they're making some grains and agriculture related occupations like barley, wheat, food crops, grams, many groundnut. These all will be traditional crops, jowar, bajra, and these all crops. But British was mostly that completely commercialized. Commercialized means in England, in the world, England is a major trade share was occupied by the Britain. So they need a lot of production, means more demand, some like cotton, tobacco, sugarcane, jute, tea, and coffee. These are the trade crops: cotton, sugarcane, and tobacco, and also tea, coffee, like that, jute. So these are the trade crops were there. So it is not a food crops. But British wantedly, they are encouraging to giving the financial assistance to the Indians, those who are willing to cultivate the trade crops. For them, like loans or advancements, uh, like monetary advancements also giving to the farmers. Then only they have to cultivate. And again, that crop should be sold to the British only, for Britain traders only, not for Indians. Sugarcane, tobacco, and barley, and these are the trade crops. Also, mostly preferable to the British. So trade crops are dominated to the Indian fruit crops. Then automatically farmers are affected. Farmers were affected to these policies because advancements, even the encouraging to the only trade crops only. So food crops are gradually reducing in India because of British policy. That food crops, due to this only, after the some years later, 1 decade, 2 decades later, famines and droughts also taken place. అత్యధిక కరువులు కూడా సంభవించాయి. స్కేర్సిటీ ఆఫ్ ప్రొడక్ట్స్, గ్రెయిన్స్, ఆహార ధాన్యాల కొరత. Scarcity of food grains also taken place because British wantedly encourage the trade crops like sugarcane, tobacco, and jute, coffee, and tea is related. So textile, clothes related. Then farmers are disturbed. So farmers are disturbed due to this commercialization of agriculture. Then one more, after the commercialization of agriculture, not only the reason for getting angry, peasants are getting very angry on British. One more cause is main: revenue settlements, revenue tax system also cause for to raising the voice of the Indian farmers on British. Okay, so taxes, భూమి శిస్తు విధానాలు కూడా కారణం. Revenue taxes also reason for their movements. So what are the revenue policies? Like in Warren Hastings, after Jamindari system, like nothing but after the Cornwallis introduced that Cornwallis permanent settlement system, the tax was fixed for 10 years for each and every farmer should pay strictly for 10 years, fixed the tax. No amendment, no change till the completion of term, 10 years. That land tenure, revenue tax also reason. Then after Mahalwari system also, one of the tax system. The land is divided some mahals, villages. The group of villages differ from each mahal, one type of tax. Land is categorized and tax was fixed for farmers, some percentage of farmers. The tax should pay to British. So farmers are like Bengal and Bihar, Orissa and Maharashtra. These all regions where the cultivation, agriculture was more abundant, that farmers are unable to pay these higher taxes. So that is also reason. So before the 1857 revolution, also these all policies, 1857 Sipai mutiny. Also farmers are, discontent of farmers are raising the allure in India. Near the sea coast, near the cultivation of crops, that more problems faced by the Indian farmers. So the platform of the fighting, they don't know how to react on British. The power is not there, that energy not there to fight against the British. To collecting voice, many peoples were different regions. If you raise our voice, they can arrest, keep into jail, hanging, death sentence, punishments were there. So they are waiting for to taking the agitation. They are waiting for participation of the like a movements, but no one cannot come forward. After this, many years passed. Some years passed after one region to another region. Farmers are syndicated against this revenue taxes. To cancel the taxes, they fight and the revenue policies. One more Raitware system. Thomas Munro introduced. Thomas Munro was introduced in seeded districts, Raitware system. Like a permanent settlement, it was introduced in the Bihar, Bengal, Orissa region. And Mahalwari system, which was western part of India, like Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, this region, western region, northwest region also, like Punjab region also introduced this Mahalwari system. And Bihar, Bengal, Orissa, it is a revenue settlements, permanent settlement system by Karanwalis. And Raitwari system, it's southern part of India, like a seeded districts, like a Madras region. Madras, Karnool, Ballari, Kadapa, Anantapur, this southern part of India, Karnataka region also introduced this Raitwari system. So all over the country, the southern part of India is a Raitwari system. The eastern part of India is, what is that? Permanent settlement system. Then northwest and western part of India is a Mahalwari system. So this revenue tax system was spread at the three regions. So farmers were faced the economical crisis due to paying of these taxes. If it is a crop failure, that land is auctioned by the British officials. Land auctioned, వేలం, భూమిని వేలం వేయడం. రైతులు ట్యాక్స్ చెల్లించకపోతే their land should be occupied by British. So these all one by one taking the causes for revolting by Indians. ఇవన్నీ కూడా భారతదేశంలో రైతులు, కార్మికులు ఉద్యమాలు చేయడానికి కారణమయ్యాయి. Means these revolutions, విప్లవాలు, tribals also. Then next, one more reason We are only discussing the reasons. After the revolts in which place was done, we will discuss in the next classes. ఏ ఉద్యమం ఏ రాష్ట్రంలో ఎవరి నాయకత్వంలో జరిగింది అనేది we will discuss the another one by one classes. But today we are discussing only one causes for this revolts. ప్రజా ఉద్యమాలు విప్లవాలు ఎందుకు జరిగాయి, which this revolutions were, what are the reasons to influence the this revolts, people's movements, ప్రజలు ఎందుకు తిరుగుబాట్లు చేశారు. సో డిఫరెంట్ పార్ట్స్ లో ఏ రాష్ట్రంలో, బెంగాల్లో, బీహార్ and Orissa, Maharashtra, so different parts, different movements were there. We will discuss in the one by one after the next class. But one more reason also there. ఇప్పటి వరకు ట్రేడ్ పాలసీస్ చెప్పుకున్నాం, అండ్ రెవెన్యూ, అగ్రికల్చర్ చెప్పుకున్నాం, ఫ్రీ ట్రేడ్ పాలసీ, అండ్ విలేజ్ ఆర్టిషన్స్, వృత్తులు, గ్రామీణ వృత్తులు కూడా పతనమైనాయి కాబట్టి వాళ్ళు కూడా దే ఆర్ ఆల్సో స్టార్ట్ విత్ ఫైట్ విత్ బ్రిటిష్ పీపుల్ అనుకున్నాం. దెన్ వన్ మోర్ మేజర్ అనదర్ కాజ్ ఆల్సో దేర్, ట్రైబల్ ఫ్రమ్ డిఫరెంట్ పార్ట్స్ ఆఫ్ ద కంట్రీ. భారతదేశంలో ఉన్నటువంటి గిరిజనులు కూడా ఉద్యమాలు చేశారు బ్రిటిష్ వారి పైన. వై ద ట్రైబల్స్ వర్ డిసైడింగ్ టు ఫైట్ అగెన్స్ట్ బ్రిటిష్ అనేది, ద బ్రిటిష్, దీనికి ఒక రీజన్ ఏంటంటే, ఫస్ట్ ద మేజర్ రీజన్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ మూమెంట్, tribal, that lands were occupied by the British. Forest department is introduced by the British government. British ప్రభుత్వం ఫారెస్ట్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ ని ప్రవేశపెట్టింది. Then after introduction of the British this forest policy, forest is declared as a reserve. And that reserve forest is under the protection by the police, British officials. British వాళ్ళ యొక్క అధికారుల చేతుల్లో రక్షణగా. Then forest department occupied by the British. Then after the occupation, tribal people who are living in the forest, అడవుల్లో, అటవీ ప్రాంతంలో నివసించే గిరిజనులు, వాళ్ళ వ్యవసాయము, పోడు కల్టివేషన్, జూమ్ కల్టివేషన్, ట్రెడిషనల్ వ్యవసాయము, సంప్రదాయము, వాళ్ళ యొక్క సాంప్రదాయిక వ్యవసాయ విధానము, పోడు కల్టివేషన్, ఇట్ వాజ్ డిస్టర్బ్డ్. దెన్ తరతరాలుగా many years onwards they are enjoying their land used by cultivation by the tribals. But after introduction of forest department, the forest tribals were displaced. వాళ్ళని అడవుల నుంచి బయటికి వెళ్ళగొట్టి ఆ అడవులను ఆక్రమించడం జరిగింది. దట్ ఈస్ ద రీజన్ ఫర్ tribal people also get angry on British. ఇలా peasants, farmers, tribals, Indian village artisans and village merchants, many movements were taken place by in India at the time of British, during the modern India. These people's movements were taken place in India, all over India, many parts of the country like Maharashtra, Bengal, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh. So many states were done. So what movements were done? What movements were taken place at the time? These revolts and movements we will discuss in the next class. Today we only discuss the causes for influencing the starting of this peasants movements and people's movements. ప్రజా ఉద్యమాల కారణాలు ఎలాంటివి అనేది మాత్రమే, ఓన్లీ రీజన్స్, కాజెస్ చెప్పుకున్నాం జరిగింది. ఓకే, విల్ in the next class, on the next Sunday, another class we will take the second part. Okay, my name is Krishnaya. I am a history faculty, Babu. Right. First unit was complete, but next chapter will second means civil and people's revolts. We will discuss in the next class. Only part one only we discussed. Only reasons. Right? Total 5 is there. First, I can complete it now. Then second, civil and people's revolts. We will discuss in the next class. Okay. Material, it is you can take the from outside, Babu. Already some materials, test papers are there. Books తీసుకోలేదా? Okay, okay. You can collect from your center. మీకు పోస్ట్ లో వస్తాయో ఎలానో అది ఒక మీరు ప్రాసెస్ చేసుకోండి. ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ. రైట్.